Good day, students. Welcome back. Today we are going to do the next unit or the next session of Web Applications and Security, Unit 4. And this session is going to be on networking fundamentals. So the first session was on accessibility option, and today we are going to do the second session, which is networking fundamentals. Now, what is networking? A computer network often simply refers to a network or a collection of computers and devices which are connected through any communication channels so that it facilitates communication between the users and they can share resources with the other users. So any two or more computers which are connected to each other and they can share common resources among them, that is called as a computer network. This diagram represents a computer which is rather several computers which are connected to a main computer which is called as a server. So there are different ways in which these computers are connected to one another, and that is what we are going to learn in this particular chapter. That is how are these computers connected to each other and what are the different types of topographies that are used for connecting these computers to one another so that they can share resources among themselves. Before we understand how these computers are connected to each other, first let us understand what is the need for connecting computers together, or basically what are the advantages of networking. So the first important advantage is data sharing. So this is the most, this is the most important use of networking, that you can share data among the different users. So the data in the form of spreadsheets, Word documents, presentations, audio and video files, all this can be shared among each of the all the computers when they are networked or when they are connected to each other. So if for example, if user A has made a particular PowerPoint presentation and he wants it to share it with user B, then if it is computer is connected to each other, they can easily share those that data among each other. The second important advantage is hardware sharing. So in a big organization, suppose there are about 100 people who are working together. So sharing of resources like scanners, printers, etc. They need not purchase 100 different printers for 100 systems. They can share the resources among each other, and one single printer or a large volume printer or maybe 3 or 4 printers can be shared among, or scanners etc. can be shared among all the different types of different users, different computer users. So this saves cost for the organization, and it helps, like whenever you need it, only then you need to use those resources. So it becomes much more economical for the organization. Another important advantage of networking is the internet access sharing. So if you have computers which are connected to each other, then you need not buy individual internet connections for each of them. You can have one big large volume internet connectivity for all the computers, and it can be used by everybody. So you can have a high speed internet connectivity which can be shared among all the users. This type of internet connections are mostly found in internet cafes, in schools, companies, colleges, all major organizations. They all have one single internet connectivity for the entire organization. Also, network-based applications, web browsers, email clients, and chat applications, and audio-video calling, all this is possible because the computers are networked or they are connected to each other. Now that we have understood why networking is so important, or what are the advantages of networking, let us now go on into the types of networks. The first type of network we are going to discuss is based on the number of machines that can be connected to each other and the distance that it can cover. So the first type of network in this category is the TAN, that is tiny area network. It covers a short distance of about 10 to 12 meters, and the total number of machines that can be connected in the TAN network is from 2 to 20 machines. The next one, which is called as a LAN or the local area network, is a very common type of networking. In this is limited to a smaller or a geographical area of about 100 meters, but they are mostly used in places like schools, offices, computer laboratories, close proximity buildings, and such type of areas which are nearby to each other. The proximity is in the area of less than 100 meters is a local area network or a LAN. For example, in our computer lab also, all the machines that you see in all the 3 different labs are connected to each other, and it is in a small geographical area, that is the entire building, a school building. All machines are connected to one another using the LAN network. The next is called as a CAN or the campus area network. Here it covers a distance of more than 1000 meters. So a large campus, a university campus or an office complex where there are multiple buildings but in a range of around 1000 meters, then that type of a network which is connected is called as a CAN, that is the campus area network. So a LAN network is there are multiple users, and there may be a single mail server, a file server, printer server, and a single printer. So all these are attached to each other. This is an example of a LAN in a small area. So I already gave you an example of our computer lab where we have got multiple machines around. In the first lab we have 15, in the second lab we have 15, the inside lab we have got 15 computers, and we have got one printer and a main server inside the server room. So you have understood that, you are very familiar with our computer lab, the way our computer lab is placed. So you will better understand it with the example of a LAN. Our computer lab is the best example of the LAN type of networking. The next important networking type is called as MAN, which is Metropolitan Area Network. Now this spreads over a large city or a very large campus. The technology which is used to connect these computers are high-speed fiber optic links or a link-up services to the wide area network and the internet. Now MAN covers a distance of about 10 to 40 kilometers. So if their range is about 10 to 40 kilometers, then it becomes a metropolitan area network. So it covers an entire city or very, very large campuses. So this is the MAN or the Metropolitan Area Network. So here we have got an internet service provider in a metropolitan, and various buildings in and around an area of are connected to each other. In a city or a large campus, they are connected to each other. Different houses, buildings, all in a area are connected using the metropolitan area network. The way of connecting the computers is through the fiber optic cables. And the next type is called as a WAN, which is a wide area network. This covers a very large geographical area such as a country, or it even spans to international, intercontinental distances. So in this type, how do you think that these computers are connected to each other in such far distances? They can be used through telephone lines, cables, airwaves, satellites. All this way the computers are connected to one another. So it covers a distance of more than 1000 kilometers, then that is called as a WAN area network or a wide area network. So this is mostly used when you have to connect computers which are at a very far distance from each other. So basically you have got a WAN system where multiple LANs together are connected to one another. So multiple LANs and MANs are connected to each other, then that is called as a wide area network or a WAN. Now here, depending upon the distance that it is being covered, you can see the TAN is from 10 to 12 meters, LAN is less than 100 meters, CAN is 1000 meters, then 10 to 40 kilometers is a MAN, and WAN is more than 1000 kilometers. So this is the way the networking happens based on the number of computers and the distance that it covers. Now that we have understood how the computers are connected to each other by the different types of networks, that is the LAN, the MAN, WAN, etc. Let us now go on into understanding what is the network architecture, which means how a network operates by deciding who is the node authority. And based on this, you have two basic types of configuration, which is the client-server configuration and a peer-to-peer configuration. Let us understand these two in detail. Now, a client-server architecture. In a client-server architecture, there is a main machine which is called as a client machine, and you have got all the different nodes or different clients which are attached by a Y cable or any other connection method to this main server. So this server is the main controlling unit of this entire network. So this is a typical diagrammatic representation of a client server architecture, in which we have a client. Maybe the printer is also the main printer, which is useful for all the machines are attached to this client, so that to this server, and all the other machines are connected to this particular main server. So all the basic important software and everything is available on the main server. So the server is the controller of this entire architecture. So here the server is like you can say that the service to the it's called as a server because it provides service to the other clients which are attached to it. So here we can say that a service to the other computers is called as a client server network. The computer which provides the service is called as a server, and the others who use the service is called as a client. So the user is making an interaction by requesting something to the server, to share the resources, to access the data. All this the client requests the server, and the server will give it back to the clients. So this particular server is a very high performance PC which has got highest operating speed, large memory, and a large hard disk space. So, and all the others, and because this is so important, this particular server, it provides all the services that is asked for by the clients. It is the main machine which controls the entire network, and it has got dedicated task of providing service to the main to all the clients which are attached to it. So this type of architecture where client is the client gives the server giving all the different resources and data and devices to the client is called as the client server architecture. So the next type of architecture is called as a peer-to-peer. In this type of architecture, each computer is connected to the other computer and they share resources among themselves. There is no single machine which is the server, or there is no one single machine which has an authority over all the resources. Unlike the client server where the server has got all the authority and it's the most important machine. In case of a peer-to-peer configuration, there is no special server. All are equal. All the peers or all the computers which are attached to one another are of the same equal status. So generally, each of these machines are a PC by itself. They are called as nodes, and here they directly transfer information among one another. So this type of and each of the CPU is a individually competent machine. So this type of architecture is called as a peer-to-peer configuration. The other one is called as the client server architecture. This type is called as a peer-to-peer configuration. After understanding what are the different types of networks and what are the different network architectures, let us now understand how this network can be connected to the main network, which is internet, which is also a network of networks. So how can we connect to this internet, or how to connect to the internet is what we are going to learn now. So to get connected to an internet, you need an internet service provider. A provider, it is an organization which provides internet services, and these services are by a dial-up, that is using a modem, or a direct hardwired or a wireless connection. So there are many different types of service providers who provide internet. For example, BSNL, that is Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, Airtel, Jio, Vodafone, Idea. All these are the basic internet service providers which we have around us, who provide services of internet at a given cost. Now, depending upon what type of internet connectivity you want, it's all depending upon the availability of that particular technology in your area, the speed, the connection type which is available. All this decides on the type of internet connection that you can get. Now, usually a very small business or users like home users and small businesses, they use any type of connections like the DSL connectivity, cable, modem, dial-up, broadband, wireless, etc., or the 3G, 4G, etc. Whereas large and medium large sizes and and medium sized organizations where the customer requirements are more and the demands of the organization for a better connectivity is more, they use high speed DSL, that is dedicated lines, or the ISDN lines for connectivity, so that they can have a completely totally they can have a dedicated internet service for their organization. So these are the types of different types of connectivity, of internet connectivity, and we are going to look at each of them in detail. So going on to the different types of connectivity, internet connectivity. The first one is called as a dial-up connection. In a dial-up connection, the internet is given facilitated through a public switch telephone network, and it establishes the connection through the to the service provider. So ISP, that is the internet service provider, via gives you the internet through a telephone line, and there is a device called as a modem, which is the user has to dial in to that particular network and get access to the internet service provider through the telephone lines. Now what happens with this dial-up connection is that the connectivity is extremely slow, and in most cases nowadays, because of it was very prevalent a few years back, but now it has been completely or more so replaced by high speed connections such as the DSL and the cable modem. It was at one point of time the most important method of connecting to the internet, that dial-up connection, that is through the local telephone lines. But now it has been replaced by broadband and by cable modem. The next type of connectivity is the DSL, or the digital subscriber line. This is a very common type. This is the most common type of internet connectivity, usually in homes. Now in a digital subscriber line, the internet service provider, he gives access to internet by transmitting digital data over wires of a local telephone network, and the DSL service is delivered along with a wired telephone service. So on the same telephone line, you have got the telephone services also, as well as the internet services also. So on the customer's premises, the DSL filter removes out all the high frequency interferences, enabling simultaneous use of the telephone line as well as the data transmission. The only thing that you need for a DSL connection is a DSL modem as well as a subscription. So for example, if you take an Airtel line, you may have an Airtel telephone also, and at the same time you can get data over the internet also. So this type of connection is called as a digital subscriber line. The speed of such type depends upon how much you pay for the package. Depending upon the payment, the speed and the downloading capacity of your line increases or decreases. The next type of internet connectivity is using the 3G, that is the third generation. It is a set of standards used for mobile devices and for mobile telecommunication services and networks. So HSDPA, that is high speed download packet access, is the mobile telephone communication protocol, which allows high speed data transfer and across the mobile networks. Now if you have a 3G, if your phone supposes the 3G, then it allows you to subscribe for a 3G connectivity through your ISP, that is your internet service provider will give you a 3G connectivity, which gives you very high connection to the internet connectivity on your phone. Now you must be thinking why we are talking about 3G, but because current scenario is that we have got the 4G, and also we are nearing in India, we are also going on towards trying to attain a 5G connectivity, the 5th generation. It is still in the process. So but according to your textbook, we have to teach you 4G, but I am sure that all of you would be now aware that we are now almost everybody is using the 4G connectivity. Nevertheless, it is the same thing, that is any type of internet connectivity on your mobile phone which allows you to have a wireless high speed internet connectivity on your phone is called as the third generation, fourth generation of telephone communication service. Now the next type of connectivity many of you must be aware of, which is called as the cable internet. Now, in a cable internet, it is a form of broadband internet connectivity which uses the television cable as its infrastructure. So this cable internet is provided through your existing TV cable lines, and the service provider will, it is almost similar to the digital the DSL, that is the digital subscriber line, the same thing, but this is given by the cable operator. Your cable operator who operates your cable channels, they only will be giving you the internet connectivity through your existing cable lines, whereas in DSL it is provided through the existing telephone lines. In cable internet it is given through the cable, through your local telephone, your local television cable, TV cable. So this is the difference between DSL and cable internet. Many of you at homes, you must be having this particular internet which is given by the cable operator to you. That's called as the cable internet. So you have got a, as the figure shows, you will have a cable line which is attached to the modem. I'm sure every one of you must be very well aware of this particular sign. This is called as a Wi-Fi, which is the most popular technology which allows electronic devices such as your computer or your mobile phones to exchange data wirelessly over the network, and it's including very high speed network connectivity. So this is very commonly used nowadays. Almost everybody has got a Wi-Fi connectivity at home, a Wi-Fi router in your homes, which helps you to connect wirelessly over a network, and that too used with very high speeds. And this is the last type of connectivity which is called as the WiMAX, or the worldwide interoperability for microwave access. It is a wireless type of connection, and its standard design is to provide mobile and broadband connectivity across areas and countries which through a variety of devices. Now, when is a WiMAX used? A WiMAX is a long range system. It covers many kilometers, and it is typically using either the DSL or the cable internet, where it cannot go. That is where you cannot have a DSL network or a cable internet possible, where there is a difficulty in laying of cables in such areas like hilly regions or somewhere below water bodies and places like this, where you cannot lay a cable, or there cannot be a telephone line connectivity or a DSL network or a cable internet. In such remote places, you can use a connectivity which is called as the WiMAX connectivity, that is worldwide interoperability for the microwave access. So it is through your the towers. You have got huge towers like this. This particular WiMAX, this is how a WiMAX works. You have got certain areas which are hilly regions or forest areas. So there are different types of transmitter towers, WiMAX transmitter towers, which are connecting and which will give you, which is finally connected to the internet service provider and the internet broadband. You can get connectivity in such areas using the WiMAX network, this type of WiMAX connectivity. So this particular diagram, I think, would be it would make it clear the concept of what is a WiMAX and how does it work. You can have a look at it and you will understand it, that there are multiple towers which transmit the signals among each other and finally to the service provider, who will give the internet connectivity. So in a nutshell, let us look at the different technologies and how is this connectivity. So we have got a dial-up connectivity, a DSL connectivity, and a cable internet which is wired, because they are physically connected to the network through wires, whereas we have got the 3G, the Wi-Fi and the WiMAX, which are wireless type of connectivity. So these are the three wired connectivities and three wireless connectivities which we have learned so far. Let us now understand how data is transferred over the internet. So this data which is how is the data which is there on our machine, how does it get transferred over the internet? That is what we are going to learn now. So this data is broken into bits of small sized pieces which is called as packets. So the data on your computer which you want to send over the internet is broken into small pieces which is called as packet. A header is added to each packet explaining where the data is from and where it is to end up. So where it fits in with the rest of the packets. So there is a header which is attached to this particular packet which tells what is the source or from where this particular data is originating and where it has to finally go. Each packet is sent from computer to computer until it finds its destination. Each computer on its way decides to send the next packet. So all these packets may not take the same route. So these packets are sent from one computer to the other computer, and as they are broken into small bits, they travel all around through from different computers. They will travel around. Each computer will decide where it has to send it to the next and all of them may not take the same route. At its destination, these packets are again examined. If any packets are missing or damaged, a message is sent asking it to be resent, and this continues until all the packets are received intact. The packets are then reassembled into its original form, and all this is done in seconds. So you will see sometimes that it takes a longer time for certain data to come into your, if you ask for a download or something, it takes some time, and sometimes it becomes very fast. So ultimately when it reaches its destination, when all the packets reach its destination, because the header contains the address of the particular place where it has to finally reach, then all of them are reassembled so that the data gets its original form. And this is all done in a fraction of seconds. And so but sometimes depending upon the speed also, you will have the taking time to come. Sometimes it comes very quickly. So this is the way how your data gets transferred over the internet, and you get from one destination to the other. You are able to send data over the internet. So I hope today's class has been useful to you, and you have understood what a network is, what are the different types of networks, what are the network architectures, and what are the different types of connectivity by which a network can get connected to the internet, that is Wi-Fi and the DSL network, the WiMAX and the cable internet, Wi-Fi, etc., 3G, etc. So this session now is the session number 2, that is internet networking fundamentals, ends over here. I hope it has been a useful session to you. Thank you.